Now, there's no doubt about it that right now, Disney and Lucasfilm are really making a lot of different efforts on really course-correcting the franchise, starting off with Star Wars Ahsoka, Ahsoka Season 2, as well as Mando Season 4, just for starters, which, by the way, have no impact by Kathleen Kennedy's creative input, since, of course, now she's only focused on Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, and has no connections to anything else so far as of yet. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, like I've said before earlier, Kathleen Kennedy strictly only has creative control over Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, and nothing else that's being produced in 2023. However, unfortunately for Mando Season 3, she did have a role during the scripting phase back in 2022, given that it was a production for the 2022 year. Now, moving on to actor Mark Hamill and the character of Luke Skywalker, we do know that Mark Hamill has been teasing a number of things about the future of Star Wars, where it's all going, what John and Dave have been discussing with him about the future of the franchise on Disney+, and exactly what fans can really expect to see in the years to come. Now, we know that everything related to Luke in the sequel trilogy films is highly criticized. A lot of fans did not like Rian Johnson's direction on that, nor did they like, of course, the direction that J.J. Abrams did with Luke as a Force ghost in The Rise of Skywalker. Now, we know that everything related to that has been a tough struggle to kind of recuperate from, and the fans remain divided to this very day. Now, given that Mando Season 3 has come to a close, Mando Season 4 is going to be heavy on Luke Skywalker appearances, very similar, if not more, than the Book of Boba Fett. Now, on top of this, with actor Mark Hamill very involved with John and Dave's plans for Star Wars and how Luke Skywalker will be utilized in the future, Hamill recently took part in an interview where he was able to announce some very reassuring things to the fans. Mark went on to unveil the following. So I have been very close with John and Dave recently, and let me say one thing. They have some mind-blowing things planned out for Luke's presence in the upcoming shows. I can absolutely assure fans that much what fans loved about Luke and Legends is going to be this big of a deal and focus in the up-and-coming projects that they have been working on. Myself and my son Nathan have been even giving John and Dave pointers on how to handle my character. They have been looking into ways to evolve him through expanding his Jedi Academy and new generation of Jedi all the way to newfound Force powers for Luke to use in the near future and not so distant future for fans to finally see. Now, John came into this knowing he wanted to expand Luke, and specifically told me they wanted to take a break from using him in Mando Season 3 after the Book of Boba Fett appearance. So, to be clear guys, let me just pause here quick, is that it was John and Dave's call to give Luke a break in Mando Season 3, and that makes sense. You know, you don't want to overuse the character, you don't want to demystify him too much, you kind of want to make him a mystery man to a degree that kind of makes him a little bit more interesting, right? That's what's great about Luke. He's like this legend. He's this figure who defeated Vader and Palpatine and brought down the Empire. And that's kind of like exactly, you know, what they should have done in a more respectful light in the sequels. They didn't do it correctly. So, in this scenario, Mark Hamill is assuring fans that John and Dave are literally stripping a lot of things from Star Wars Legends Luke and throwing it into the upcoming canon material. We talked about this briefly just yesterday or the day before, that there is a project currently dubbed simply as Jedi Knight that's going to be a new anthology show that's going to focus on 10 whole episodes dedicated to Luke and his Jedi Academy at different points in his life, at different ages, so to speak. And Mark Hamill, and by the way, his son Nathan Hamill, is like a very big fan, if not a bigger fan than John and Dave. I mean, he's like the guy. And Mark even had Nathan, you know, filling things in for John and Dave and what to do with Luke and the future projects and whatnot. So that brings us to the next big piece about all of this, is that we know that John and Dave are very geared toward really just making the fans very satisfied, providing fans just pure entertainment that's going to be holding a lot of value and meaning, as opposed to just bland entertainment like what Kathleen Kennedy does usually, and has done before in the past. So, moving on to the next thing, he goes on to elaborate, but they have so many great things planned for Luke that I really do think it will melt the fans' focus away from the sequel films. I genuinely believe that, and I am continuing to talk with them about this every single week about where it's all going. My son Nathan also pushed John and Dave to expand on some areas, and they were actually very amazed and impressed at how knowledgeable he really was with the lore. Now, again, before I move to the last piece here, is that Mark Hamill is making it very clear that he realizes that there's a lot of fans out there unhappy with the sequels, and really believes, genuinely believes, that John and Dave's efforts on how they are about to utilize Luke in upcoming projects is going to melt away the fan division, or the fans' issues with Luke and how he was used in the sequels, right? And I think, at the end of the day, right, that's something that technically did happen with Mando Season 2. It really took your focus away from that. Back in 2020, I believe it was back in December when that episode aired, the finale, it was the night of a lifetime. I mean, it was something that was just, so surprising that you would have never expected anything like that. And yeah, we do know that John came on board because he had a lot of issues with how Disney was using Luke and how he himself had problems with The Last Jedi. So John used his contacts from working on The Lion King and, other projects out there, like The Jungle Book, to really get his way into Lucasfilm. Alright? Now, the last thing is that he goes on to elaborate. I know they have George looking over things related to Luke's future, so that should be all good and fun, but yeah, I think fans need to just be entertained and enjoy the fun things again, and that's something I believe fans are ready for. It's going to be a great ride. So Mark Hamill is making it clear that George is looking over things, he's looking over exactly what John and Dave are doing, giving them the okay on certain things, maybe challenging certain areas about what should or should not be done. And that's basically what George did back in the days of Star Wars Legends, right? And that's what he's doing now with John and Dave on all of these upcoming projects. Be it, of course, live action shows, animated, and the upcoming films. We know Dave Filoni has an upcoming Star Wars film that's going to open the gateway to a trilogy centered in on the Mandoverse or the Age of the New Republic, bringing your favorite Mandoverse characters to the big screen. That's basically the big game plan for Dave Filoni's future film. And the thing about Luke, too, let's remember that Mark Hamill did sign his autograph, or his signature, I should say, on the wall on the set of Star Wars Ahsoka Season 1, which is a little hint that Luke is returning in the Ahsoka series. We know he is for Season 2, but we're not quite certain about Season 1 just yet. There has been little to no concept art about that, or even storyboards, surprisingly. So maybe he makes a very brief cameo that they're really keeping on lockdown, who knows. So overall, I would really like to hear what you all have to say about Mark Hamill's, words about Luke and where John and Dave are taking him. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon we hear them